Ernest Holmes defined love as the desire of the soul to express itself. This dynamic desire or energy is the divine becoming human and the human becoming divine. I love what Moira Fox has to say about love. She says that often love is lost in translation. It's buried in the rubble of poor presentation. It's dimmed by mindless and careless packaging, and it's torn by faulty delivery. But when we sit down to really contemplate and define love, it's a bit tricky, isn't it? What exactly is love? And so I want to take a look at love from a higher spiritual context. Paul says in Corinthians that love is patient, it's kind, it doesn't envy, it doesn't boast, it keeps no records of rights and wrongs. Love doesn't delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, and it always perseveres. Faith, hope, and love remain, but the greatest of these is love. And so here, in this context, we can see love, the broader and larger definition of love, love with a capital L, this larger picture of God or Spirit. And love is a mystery. It exists simultaneously within us and outside of us. It both binds us and frees us. It opens and enlarges our heart, and it also breaks our hearts. And it can't be seen except in the eyes of the beloved, nor can it be felt except in the heart of one who is cherished. Its presence can transform our hearts, our minds, and our lives. And quite simply, love is another name for God. And so in that context, love really isn't a word, but it's an action. It's a movement, a motion, an expression. If you want to participate in love and you want to understand it, you have to embody it. It isn't something we strive for necessarily. It's something we allow. What is always true is that the love we seeks us and embraces us without our knowing. And that is the true miracle of love. This love is actually what creates our wholeness. The remembering that we are all created from this unconditional love of God or the divine. That nothing outside of us can alter that core fundamental truth. And in fact, the essence of our New Thought teaching is that God is expressed in and through us, that God is ultimately love, and love is all there is. And then, since we are made in the image and likeness of God, and since the universe is always expressing as us, that love is intrinsically who we are. And so the question for each of us is, what is blocking us from that love that is always flowing in and through us? To hold each other in the light of that love is to see God as God would see us. Beloved beings worthy of unconditional love, treasured and adored. The art of wholeness, then, is understanding this and really believing this to the very depths and core of our being. I had a friend once who told a story, and she started out by saying things are different today. That towards the end of her morning walk, she saw a dog about a block away and thought, oh my gosh darn it, that's my dog Maggie. She got out and the neighbors are going to start complaining. And as she got closer, she realized that that dog, it wasn't her Maggie. And she thought, oh my gosh, what a relief. This isn't my problem. And as she got closer, she realized that it was just a stray. She was somewhat relieved because it wasn't her problem anymore, and thought that when she got closer, the dog would just scurry off as she walked by. However, just as she thought that, on cue, the dog turned around and looked right at her, and then calmly walked over and sat right there in the middle of the street and looked up at her. And as she looked at it, she realized that, wow, this was a trained, calm dog that obviously had had a home somewhere. It obviously had been loved at one time. but now the eyes were swollen from fighting off outdoor bugs and conditions, and its fur was thick and matty, and it was really, really skinny. And she thought, gosh, she was already running late on her daily routine, and as that dog looked up at her right there in the middle of the road, begging for her to touch it or feed it, she thought, gosh, if I touch you, I could bring some disease home to my own dogs. And so she said out loud, I'm so sorry, and she walked away. And she said she walked about a quarter of a block when she looked back and saw that dog just laying in the middle of the road looking at her. She thought, gosh, why? Maybe it was so hungry that it had taken all its energy to approach her for a handout. And she said she walked the rest of the way home, and once in her kitchen drinking her coffee, she couldn't stop thinking about that dog. And she said, gosh, if I go back and collect it and take it to the pound, who's going to want that really pathetic looking dog? She couldn't take it in because she had 2 dogs of her own that she could hardly handle. And she said, and if I dare take it to the shelter and it's full, then what? I take on this new, bigger problem, to what end? And she said it was there in her kitchen drinking coffee, thinking about this dog, that she realized the tremendous passion and compassion that it took for her friend, Pastor Skip, and his unique ministry to the homeless humans of her South Florida community, thousands and thousands of homeless individuals. And that Pastor Skip is out there every day walking the underbrush of his town looking for human strays to give them comfort, a pat on the back, compassion, and grace. And she said she equated that stray dog to what she thinks about the homeless, that perhaps it's someone else's family problem, a neighbor's problem, or a community problem. And she said Pastor Skip realizes it's more than all of that. It's about human beings, and it's about love. And she finished her thoughts with this. And she said, to that stray dog camped out there tonight, somewhere in my neighborhood, in the underbrush, hungry enough and vulnerable enough to walk up to me and say, please help me. I'm so sorry. What did I do? I didn't do anything. I just walked away. I stood there in my kitchen dumbfounded with all the possibilities of all the choices that I was presented with. And I just froze. Tomorrow, if I see you, my mangy friend, I'll at least have some food in my pocket when I'm out walking in order to give you a moment of comfort. And then she finished by saying, I never saw that dog again on any of my morning walks. This story really touched my heart on so many levels. We're faced with so many choices every day, and we may not always recognize the opportunity to express love, or it simply might not look like what we expected or what we imagined. And it also reminds me that love heals. Emmett Fox said, there is no difficulty that enough love will not conquer, no disease that enough love won't heal, no door that enough love won't open. Very simply, there is nothing in this world that enough love can't heal. If we all believed and acted if that were true, we'd live in a very different world, wouldn't we? When we can see the world with pure love, then huge shifts and transformations can occur. But there can be no understanding of love until we understand it within ourselves. I can't love anyone else until I can begin to love myself. And so what we have to discover is this unconditional and divine gift, always flowing to us, always available. Once we come into a sense of that self-love, that knowledge of wholeness, then automatically that love is going to start showing up all around us. That's simply the way love works. It sees everything as the one life lived out in diverse and beautiful ways. And so I want to end with something that Oprah said in her book, What I Know for Sure. When you make loving others the story of your life, there's never a final chapter because the legacy continues. You lend your light to one person, and he or she or they shines it on another and another. And what I know for sure is that in the final analysis of our lives, when the to-do lists are no more, when the frenzy is finished, when our email inboxes are empty, the only thing that will have any lasting value is whether we've loved others and whether they've loved us. And so it is.
So in the sacredness of this moment, in that stillness, focusing on the breath, recognizing that divine presence that's doing the breathing in this moment, that oneness, whether we choose to call it God, infinite spirit, universal intelligence. It goes beyond any kind of name or label we could place upon it. For it is beingness itself, creator and sustainer of all existence. And I recognize there is but one mind, one infinite intelligence, flowing in through and as all of its creation, flowing in through and as me and my life and my experience of life now. And knowing that we are all connected, that each and every person present for this prayer is part of this oneness, a part of this one infinite intelligence, this perfect beingness. And it is from this place that I declare my word of peace, of abundance, of love, of light. Knowing that that perfect unfoldment of spirit and expansion of consciousness is taking place even now, bringing about new and improved conditions of life in the areas of prosperity and abundance, in those areas of perfect divine right livelihood, in peace, peace that passeth all understanding, peace in our hearts, peace in our minds, peace in our communities, peace in the world. Knowing that this peace is breaking out everywhere. Knowing that it is in the minds of hearts of all who hear this prayer and all who are in this consciousness. All world leaders, people everywhere, that one divine perfect human family. Knowing that this peace is unfolding beautifully and perfectly now. And I give great thanks for the knowingness, that perfect wisdom that knows exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. Knowing that this peace is unfolding in beautiful and miraculous ways. Knowing these and even greater things unfolding, I give such great thanks. And I turn this word over to that infallible law, knowing that nothing can hinder its good from coming forth. We simply allow it to be. We let God and let go. And so it is. Amen.